How many doctor degrees could a doctor do until the doctor had gone to the nth degree? It's been a while since I went to the doctor. I remember many years ago when I started getting some annoying low mechanical-like clicking sounds in my ear. Like there was a bone loose in my left cochlea or something. And it mostly happened when I listened to someone talk on the phone, when I held the phone on the opposite ear of the clicking one. Weirdly enough. And every time the person on the other line spoke, the clicking would start. Didn't happen every time, but quite frequently in a period of time. So I went to the doctor. My doctor. In my country, a local doctor is designated for you, but you can change to another local doctor if you want to. And these are mostly regular doctors, not specialists. Of course, it didn't take my doctor long to figure out that I had to go to a specialist, because it was just so much he could tell with only his little scope looking into my ear. I went to the specialist, did some hearing tests, listened to all sorts of low and high frequencies. Found out I had exceptional hearing, even if I had reached the ripe age of 40. Kudos for me. Anyway, the specialist said these clicking sounds were a common thing, and I can't really remember what he diagnosed it as. But I did a lot of swimming in that period, and I think it had something to do with that. Haven't swam much the last 7 years, and the clicking sound rarely appears now, so I think it most certainly had something to do with that. So he recommended that I did nothing about it, and that I just got used to it while it hopefully weathered out. Which it did. But what if it didn't, and it became a real nuisance, and I felt I had to go do something about it? Well, this specialist was not a surgeon, so then I would have to go and see an even more specialized specialist. Someone who was a specialist on this very bone or whatever caused the annoyance, and present me with a procedure that was safe and could solve my problem. I'm sure that more than one person would have to be involved in this imagined surgery, and that the people involved would all be specialists in one tiny little branch of science of the inner ear regarding both medicine and surgery. And what if then they didn't succeed? The operation went nowhere, and I still wanted it fixed, cost being no hinder. And I then went on a global search to find the most renowned specialists in the world on this tiny little stupid bone, or tendon, or whatever. And only then, maybe, could my ear be clear of the clicking. Or, if not even that worked, and the only option left was to sit myself out in a field waiting to be abducted by aliens, who just love to fix other species' inner ear problems. Since we're just imagining anyway, imagine the branching from my regular doctor through dozens of specialists all the way out to the interplanetary specialists. Imagine how many hours every being that played a role on my ear-fixing journey had spent studying to be able to do the work that they do, even if they were not able to fix every problem one threw at them. Decades upon decades studying and experimenting, although I can't speak for the interplanetary specialists. But let's go galactic anyway, or astronomical. Let's bring it to a mind-blowing level, because your mind would most likely have to have sectors cleaned to fit in the data in question. Consider this. For every little tiny specialized field of science, there is at least one person who has spent his or her entire career focusing on just one little thing, one little molecule, and its unfathomable complexity, not only just in on itself, but also in regards to its relation with its surroundings and other complex molecules. Imagine all the people through history that has had a say on how science has evolved, and all the time they spent becoming masters in their field of study, and how much time they spent in total to come up with their contribution. And let's just keep it to the data you have to absorb to become a regular doctor, to keep it simple or simpler. It probably varies from school to school, country to country, But I'm sure no one knows the exact number of hours spent in total by all those that contributed so that you could take a degree today and become a medical doctor, for instance. Please look through the obvious faults I put myself in here regarding the semantics. The terms vary so much from country to country, and of course a doctor can just be a doctor in whatever field. It's a doctor's degree. You might not be able to cure anyone for diseases. You might have a doctor's degree in electric guitars or caterpillars. And it probably requires more to be a hospital doctor than just a house doctor. I don't know, but the point is still valid, and I will use it to make a point about the brain department. That is very much a concern when you want to become really good and knowledgeable about something. As I was writing the very sentence I'm speaking out now, I had absolutely no idea how many hours in total are involved from every single scientist who contributed to every data that made you being able to read it so you could come out on the other side as a licensed doctor. I took a guess, and then I would go on a full-day internet search to make a very rough estimate, but still not a guess. And I made a promise I would not cheat and adjust my initial guess. So I guessed, on the top of my head, 876 million hours, the equivalence of 100,000 years in total from every scientist from the mere start of their career in their field of study to becoming masters of their specialized field, formulating their theory, handing over a great discovery, and getting it confirmed. Results came in. Well, it took a little longer than I thought, because I got a bit lazy and procrastinated on the issue. Before I give the refined number, which you should take with a whole heap of salt, sea salt actually, since it's very, very roughly speaking, I want to share how I got the final number. Who are the scientists behind everything that has been discovered in the fields of physiology, psychology, and medicine? Do they all have degrees? Hippocrates, who's supposed to have started the whole thing over 2,000 years ago, must still have learned a lot from someone too. And there's always that person who now and then annoys the heck out of the establishment with relentless self-studies, discovering things that the establishment was supposed to discover. Like Augusta Odone, the Italian economist, who had no medical training whatsoever, but in pure necessity being the mother of all inventions, they say, figured out a way to slow down the devastating effects of ALD, a rare fatal neurological disease, by combining certain oils, hoping it would eventually save his son, Lorenzo. I won't spoil the ending for you. So, if you haven't watched the 90s movie Lorenzo's Oil, I strongly recommend it. Anyway, most scientists contributing in the modern era have degrees. They probably spent 10 years at least studying to end up with a doctor's degree. Probably spent several more years in practice, either as a physician or working at a laboratory, or likewise, before they got hooked on some unsolved problem. Unsolved problems for the win. Nothing more exciting than that. Or devastating if you never get to solve them. I thought, where to start? What about Nobel Prize winners in medicine? I counted them roughly from the start to present year. Circa 220. I say circa in case the same person won more than once, but I counted him or her twice. The closer we get to the present, we see that the winners are a team of scientists more often than just one. I guess that when things get more complicated over time, as the world of scientists dig deeper into the matter of things, more minds working together are crucial to get the work done. So, my first calculation. Let's say each person spent 30 years, at least, from first opening a book on medicine to presenting a great theory or finding, having a new medicine ready for testing, or finding out what caused that clicking sound in my ear. I think 30 years is a compliment. I've worked as a mover, and I've been in homes that I'm certain haven't been cleaned for 30 years. procrastination can really get to you. On the other hand, maybe one of these homes belonged to someone who was too busy figuring out how the world was put together and forgot to vacuum. Anyhow, 220 times 30 is 6,600 years. A lot, but not enough. Then I came to think about what medicine really is. Chemistry. You have to partner up with a really good chemist to get your medicine to become a reality. So at least half of the Nobel winners in that field should be counted in. I bet. Let's say 100. Nice round number. So we can add 3,000 years. We're up in 9,600 years. And for the heck of it, let's round it up to 10,000. It's not like anyone's gonna report it to the authorities. But we're still only 1/10 of the way there. Is something missing? Of course something's missing. The Nobel Prize is the greatest achievement there is, as far as I know. So what about all the other prizes out there? And heck, what about all those who were nominated and didn't win? They weren't nominated for no reason. And as far as I know, they can't nominate themselves. Certainly, I've heard some weird nominations for the Peace Prize. But I'm not sure you could nominate the kid with a lemonade stand to a Nobel Prize in chemistry though, even if he had miraculously come over the perfect recipe for lemonade. Anyway, I didn't bother to search for all the nominated, or all the other prizes out there that might be just as well prestigious. I just went straight to the source and found a number that pleased me. Because it's all about drugs, isn't it? There is about 3,700 approved drugs on the market, and they were not created in a day. There must be at least one scientist behind each of them. Let's still say there's only one, and give them 30 years each, even counting in all the years it takes to get a drug approved. 3,700 times 30. 111,000. 111,000 years. Now we're talking. And I'm pretty sure the number is 10 times higher. But I'm full. And the whole point of the episode is not about this number. It's about memory. Achieved functional memory. If it is indeed 1 million years in total spent so far by all contributors in modern history, it is the latest years, months, hours, or moments in their journey that matters. Some point after the eureka moment, when their science really started to blossom. They could have been wrong 1,000 times for that matter, in decades, and then suddenly they got it. Now their mind really started to change. The fruits of their long hours working towards that goal they didn't really know what would look like in the end started to change their brain plasticity radically. What was once a mere idea was now becoming solid ground. 1 million years cut down to the time it took you to become a licensed doctor. Voila! But imagine if you could harvest the exact mind state of each of these people in their prime, and you became a specialist in every single field, and it earned you the galactic doctor's degree. Because at this point in humans' educational evolution, it's mostly pounding the knowledge into your head in form of words and pictures. And then you must go out there and try to make sense of what you actually experience in the field. But what if you could adopt the actual brain plasticity from each and every one of the contributors? The final brain products of tens of thousands of scientists. And then you ask yourself this question. What about the initial phase? What about the journey? Shouldn't that be included? Shouldn't my brain have to be the size of the moon to fit it all in? Would it actually have to, though? Do you still remember when you couldn't ride a bicycle? Do you remember when you couldn't write or read? Or you couldn't perform well in a new hobby, game or sport you got good at? Storing the whole story seems like an awful waste of space and energy in the brain department. I think we have plenty of space for becoming 100 times greater beings. than that we can fathom right now. And if we did the work and pulled it off, we might just forget we fathomed over it in the first place. That was my whole point. Hope I didn't bore you with ridiculously rough numbers. Arrest me on those whenever you want. I would highly welcome it. Have an exceptional day, and I'm not going to tell you not to listen to people who says you can't know everything or become good at everything. Even if it sounds like they are right, you can be sure they have either given up or they didn't even try in the first place. I've often found such people's ignorance to be an inspiration to become better. And one day, someone will become good at everything. Not great, perhaps, but at least good. I just know it. Even if humanity fails and evolution has to create an amazing bipedal dolphin crow pig hybrid or something, I bet I'll eventually be right. Just like the people who claim the oceans will boil if we don't stop climate change. Because in 4 billion years or so, when the sun swells, the oceans will boil, mark my words. Unfortunately, any evidence of me saying this will boil too. So, whatever.